Planet Green Trees.
We have launched.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
here we go.
as may be able to be discerned by my voice, Michael Komorn is not here at the moment, but he is on his way back from doing what he does amidst the best, which is defend clients and take care of clients. And today his efforts took him all the way to Gaylord, so he's still on his way back, but he will be back.
Soon.
Quit talking because it doesn't do any good.
Soon.
If we're
But
not
he
being,
did leave us with a wonderful show name.
Are we just being recording probably? So
No, we're
still
recording.
Talking? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So I'll just keep going then. So he will be here soon, and he'll pick up on his rant and that kind of stuff. And we got enough to get going with, and that's for sure. So we'll just introduce who we have here, and of course this is all entertainment.
Oh no, Michael, he says we're on. We're on.
And and we'll talk a little bit about last night's elections because a lot of us are paying attention to that. Jim's particularly excited that he retained his favorite mayor.
He was up all night. He called me at like
I was getting
3
text
o'clock in the
messages
morning. At 3 in the morning, and he was concerned about
a sexist, misogynist mayor. That
he was concerned.
We'll get to that, and we'll dig into the misogyny a little bit more and the young kids that he participates with. And so
my,
forth.
that's
but
I didn't say anything
hey,
like that.
Hey, but we are lifting off here with Tommy, who is facilitating like this deep production and structure of the show and just kicking ass all over the place.
Hey guys, great to be here. Looking forward to the show.
And Jim's facilitating the Spreaker platform and calls and color and banter and Michigan Parents for Compassion.
Oh, there you go. You spit it out, Jamie. That was good. That was good. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here.
Is that was nice. Scooter?
Yeah. It's good to have everybody back. Michael will be back soon. And, even though we're through another election, I still just have to say, fuck Bill Schuette.
He still deserves it. In fact, he even thought about running for judge.
He did.
He deserves
Each election puts us another generation removed from him, though, Jim.
That's true. But I think he'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Maybe he just thinks about staying out.
Maybe.
He'll just be a lobbyist. I'm sure it'll be really effective. So, and of course, Debra Young, known for many reasons. She can pick one if you like. What one of your great accomplishments would you like to be known for tonight?
Oh, I don't know. Just for nothing.
I have deep insight into the elections last night because you pay attention to that kind of shit.
Yes, I did. Well, I was following a few.
And she's done a bunch of cool shit.
I was getting texts at 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
Well, because there was some crazy stuff happening.
There was.
Well, they were saying that Fouts was losing
at
some
we knew
point.
that wasn't going to happen.
I know.
Man, Northfield was losing bad too, and then it totally turned around. I was got the nice phone call a little bit late, but
yeah, we had quite a few disappointments. There are a couple bright spots, but some other things not so great.
No.
Well, we had community members, so to speak, running for local elected offices, and we had a few of the initiatives on. And the one in Commerce was just to add more. There was already an opt-in and some allowance there, so it wasn't like that's left without anything. But I like the idea that people were trying to push it a little bit more.
I'm really surprised that so many of the initiatives got voted down.
Well, there was a concerted effort to block the one in Allen Park.
Yeah.
We witnessed that. They had an organized team come out. And not only did they, talk it up at the town meeting, but they had literature. So they were apparently passing that out at the polls, and I think they were quite effective. It lost 60 to 40%.
Yeah, it wasn't by a little.
And Allen Park's had some discussions on it, and it hasn't. It passed by a decent amount, like at least the average, the state average, but the momentum there hasn't been as good as like the neighboring Lincoln Park, which did win its.
I'll tell you, I was a little worried when we went to the town hall meeting because it was very heavily attended, I thought, for a town meeting. And normally you would say, well, why would that worry you? When we ran earlier campaigns, our strategy was more to fly under the radar and not to create a lot of publicity, because then you bring out all the counter. So the more people that show up at these things, the bigger chance you have of people, like we saw, like plants in the audience. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's just kind of a quiet kind of thing, these crazy people don't show up. So we ended up with 3 activists and a quote pharmacist that were in opposition very loudly, and they had talking points. They were very obviously organized, and then later on it came out the organization they're with. So I think that was the issue there, because Allen Park should have been, I would think it would have been okay.
I don't know. The demographic there may not.
Well, Lincoln Park is right next door, so they okayed it.
Yeah.
So, it's not like the area will be totally without.
And Chad was facing an uphill battle by being kind of a newbie
He's
in
a
that
new
city,
guy,
and
yeah.
then running for a council seat.
It's
Yeah.
the type of city where I'm sure, just like Ferndale, where they keep recycling the same politicians.
Yeah, he may
through
have
their
dodged a
stuff.
bullet, possibly. It's not necessarily all that fun to be like a little local city official and
Right.
get heavily involved in this stuff and all
Well,
the
and
scrutiny
he
all.
can't participate in the cannabis business if he's
Mhm.
an elected official. And so that was always, in the back of his mind, because now that they eliminated some of the things that were blocking him from doing that, it could be a good thing.
And of course, Chad
And
called
he
in and he wasn't sure what was going to happen.
No.
It wasn't like he was
No.
confident.
And
he could win or
he
anything,
raised the
but
awareness of the
Uh-huh.
issue, and people came out and talked about
everybody
it.
who jumped in the race, man, and decided to like kind of participate in the process and stand up and do something, has my respect. I mean, they deserve to be recognized for that.
Mhm.
Brandon McQueen did not make it. Jamie Cooper did not make it. Bernie
Hers is
Jockins
close,
did not
though,
make it.
and there might
so
be.
yeah, so Jamie's situation is a little unique because the mayor is actually leaving to go take a position someplace else. So the pro tem will then slip into the mayor position, leaving open one council spot, and it's possible they may just go next in line down.
This is
for
what
the
happened
vote.
in Ferndale when
Yeah.
Dave Coulter left.
And then she would get a
Mhm.
seat, and then we would have gotten one in. And there were a couple good spots, bright spots in there. But it's also true that this is a local option, and not every community is gung ho about wanting the businesses in right now. Doesn't mean they won't ever have them, but
No, I think a lot of them just want to kind of stop and wait and see what happens.
But that's why it's important to get pro candidates onto
Oh, for
these
sure.
councils.
Absolutely.
Because that's how you persuade people.
there's gonna be a
Is
little bit of a process in some
you
places,
work with
right?
them and you sit next to them, and that's how you persuade people.
That is true.
And they see that you're not a crazy person.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not in politics
Mm.
anymore.
I can't even.
I might feel compelled to have to jump back in a little bit,
James
depending
gonna
on how
run.
some
What are you
things
going to run
unfold,
for,
man.
governor?
No, I'm not going to.
That'd be
Governor.
awesome. Governor.
Governor.
Governor Lowe.
Governor.
I might not be
Hello?
able just to give up activism altogether. Some things continue in one way or another. Not that I'll necessarily turn the tide myself, but
Well,
I
you
have
have
to
a
feel like I
politician-
did something.
Well, you
Shree
are
is living
responsible
close
for
to you,
everything.
right? You and Shree could, kind of
Oh,
hook
yeah.
something up. Isn't he like across the street?
He is, but Al Williams is running in the same district, and I support him actually.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, I would too, but I know you were a big Shree fan.
Yeah, that
Shree
must have been a
fan.
hard
But-
choice,
yeah.
Al and Shree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Mhm.
I'll bet it was.
It was.
I
Did you
would have
guys
had.
ever
I
see
would.
the
Well,
picture
my-
of him at I think it was Popeye's Chicken in Detroit?
Al?
No, not Al.
I was going to say, what are you
No,
talking about?
no, I'm talking about Shree.
Yes, of course. Always saw the whole thing on the news. They followed him around. And then when we were at the Democratic convention,
Like, give me a break.
people were following him around with like a tray of chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It's like, dude, who brought this guy?
It was pretty funny.
Well, I don't know. I support Al.
That's good.
Oh, well, of
Al's
course,
good
Al's a great guy. Lots of
A friend
energy,
the
great
show,
ideas.
A friend of the community.
Yeah, friend to all.
Yeah.
I love Al.
Al has failed to kill off a room full of scientific test animals, but
Yeah.
in spite of that, I'm still going to support
Well,
him.
maybe he'll hang out with Shree and Shree can show him the way.
No, Al was not hanging out with me.
I don't know exactly what the story is. I kind of improv'd that a little bit.
No,
by
that
the
was
way.
pretty
I'm not sure
pretty
about-
close. I mean, he allegedly abandoned. Well, not him, but his company abandoned.
Well, his company,
Right,
him.
a building full of
60
test animals.
They were dogs.
Yeah.
60 of them.
Yeah,
They left him.
I told
left
you
him
from.
in there.
I told you
to-
guys from the first time he
Jamie
was on
the
the
one
show that
carrying
he
around
was a
his
scumbag.
carrying around his book, saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
sure."
And you guys are like, "Oh no, he's not
Let me
that
read a couple
bad."
paragraphs from
He's
Shree's
all
book
right.
to you, man.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Fuck that book.
Jamie claimed it was a very spiritual experience.
Whatever,
The
man.
blue suitcase.
That guy
Huh?
was a fucking weirdo to begin with, and just a closet scumbag. So,
His hairpiece was kind of cool, though.
I mean, if you like that sort of thing, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Shree had his time.
Have you run into him in the neighborhood?
No,
I mean,
not
like
at
at the
all.
Turkey
He
Grill or at
misfired
Asian
on-
Corned Beef?
He misfired on his run
whatever.
for governor. His first time out, even though he had the money, or had some money, he made a splash just because of that. And of course, he did that Super Bowl ad and stuff like that. But
What did he spend, like $6 million of his own
he should have
dollars?
gone. He could have
did.
used money like that and gotten into a position someplace and then
Yeah.
run for something higher.
He could have
with
done
some,
anything other than what he did.
Yes, he could have made a big difference. But
go on a bender. I mean, whatever, man. But yeah,
Well, so so we came up short most places. Kind of a draw some other places. I consider like Commerce. I mean, they have it. They just didn't expand on it. It's somewhat of a draw there. Northfield is actually more significant because the council or the board there is now poised to pass an opt-in ordinance based on the fact that this opt-out failed.
Right.
They were waiting for
That's
these
like
results.
the word of the people right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a number of reasons why some of these proposals went down. I mean, one of them obviously is while people are in favor, in theory, of legalization, a lot of people don't want it in close to their homes, around their kids, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that for years and years and years. So I don't know how you even,
Yeah, and Allen Park was obviously rough. I mean, we brought a lot of information. And
but they had talking points. And I also think that this whole vape situation that's been going on has had a real negative impact on cannabis, I'll get it.
no, I agree. It's
It
has
might
not
be
been good.
Michael bobbing his head wildly.
Michael's
at me.
currently locked out of his office.
urgency. He's trying to make it in. I guess he's heard us long enough, and he needs to get in here urgently and take over and get to a rant.
Oh, I'm
and his
sure
rant's
he's
going to be
upset.
about people starting the show without him.
Here he is. Here he comes. Oh, he came in the wrong door.
I let him in. I felt sorry for
There he is.
Yeah,
Michael's here finally.
There he is.
good. Well, we can
Fr-
take
fresh,
we can,
fresh off, totally
can take a
defending
break.
defending the hell out of
Michael should at least
And allow
at least-
Michael
a
to get
lucky
Michael should
settled.
at least say hello.
client. Somebody made the right decision in picking Michael. Looks like he's fresh, ready to go here in a minute.
He's ready to go.
Maybe we should take a break.
We're
here,
gonna take a
Kind
break.
of group up a little bit and then come
Yeah.
back with Michael in tow.
Yeah, that'll be good. You're listening to Planet
hey,
Green
Planet
Trees.
Green Trees.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. Set him free, let him be, breathing air like you and me. What's the judge to do? What else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him free. This whole place went nuts. If he was a soldier man, shooting gooks in Vietnam. If he was CIA, selling dope and making hay, he'd be free, breathing air like you and me. What's the judge do? What else could Judge Columba do? Well, we got to set him free. And sure enough, that was Saturday, and then next Monday, John Sinclair walked out of jail. And the Supreme Court issued an opinion in People versus John Sinclair that said, it's cruel, it's unusual, it's arbitrary, it's irrational, it's capricious, and it cannot be the law in the state of Michigan that we treat marijuana the same way we treat opioids. And they set him free. Hi, I'm Jeff Frazier. I'm one of the attorneys at Komorn Law in Michigan. And on behalf of poet John Sinclair, some doctors, some pharmacists, some organizations, we're suing the Michigan Board of Pharmacy to finally, once and for all, to remove marijuana from the Michigan list of controlled substances. John Sinclair was and is a poet provocateur, an adamant opponent and protester against America's involvement in the Vietnam War and all the bombings. He was organized together with Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin and the Black Panthers guys. And, he organized against the war. And in his words, we were protesting the war and we were advocating for the legalization of marijuana, all the while smoking vast quantities of it. We ought to do something about finally getting this plant off of the controlled substances list. We have law where the state of Michigan is licensing the medical use of marijuana. At the same time, it says under the Board of Pharmacy says under the Controlled Substances Act that it is still a controlled substance. And not only is it still a controlled substance, it's still a Schedule I controlled substance. And being Schedule I controlled substance means that it is contraband per se, and that its mere presence is evidence of a crime, and it justifies the raids. Michigan State Police spend 40% of their resources going after marijuana that is allowed for medical use, is licensed by the state, is now been voted into law by the people of this state to be legal for adult use. And yet it's still 40% of the police budget, still 40% of the prosecutor's daily load, it's still 40% of the Michigan State Police Crime Lab daily load. And it's still Schedule I, which justifies the stops, the searches, the seizures, and more importantly, the raids. And that means men with AR-15s and ski masks going in where men, women, and children and dogs and grandparents, are quietly sitting there watching TV. And because the neighbor complained of the smell of marijuana coming from a basement window, these patients or caregivers and now any citizen in the state is allowed to grow. The continued placement of marijuana on the Michigan State list of controlled substances is just simply absurd. Hopefully we'll get our hearing. If not, then we'll fight it out in the Court of Appeals and ultimately back to the Supreme Court that originally spoke in the case of John Sinclair back in 1971. It's time for, this absurdity that has forever lived at the heart of the drug war to be done with. And the way to do that is to take marijuana off the controlled substances list altogether. It's no longer to be policed. It's to be regulated. An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on Earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
What up, though? This Big Snoop Dogg when you're watching Hyped Up Live Session with my main man Tony Green. And that's right, tell him Big Snoop Dogg sent you. We looking for all that new talent in the Detroit area. Let's go, D.
All right, we're back. Michael is positioning himself. He'll be back in a moment. But in the meantime, we've been joined by Colin McDougall.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here on Planet Green Trees.
Apparently, he's been out in the parking lot for a while. He
Not
couldn't,
really,
couldn't get
no,
an
no.
They're
entrance.
texting
but
us trying to
yeah, we were ignoring his
trying to
texts.
get in, but he did make it in, and
Yeah.
now he's with us.
By luck, Michael was
And,
wandering in the hallway and
I
saw
was
him.
actually recording another podcast. I was recording Shelley Smith's Weeds and Reeds podcast.
Yeah, she contacted me. She wanted me to do it on Monday, but I can't.
Yeah. I can't either on Monday.
Yeah, she
but
asked
I was,
me to.
the
She wanted me to
audio
tell some of my
engineer.
hitchhiking stories.
Nobody is the wiser.
Nobody know. Michael, Colin has proclaimed us to be odor-free.
Yeah, I think it's odor-free. I didn't
It's
notice.
odor-free zone.
You know,
It's 'cause it
I'm
smells
not
like
doing
Middle
anything
Eastern
wrong.
food out there.
Yeah, it's delicious.
It does
smells
smell
like
like
meat. Go get some meat, Colin.
I will.
Go get some meat.
Hold on, you're not excused yet, Charlotte.
Good old hemp.
Shiloh.
I'm
You're
not sure.
gonna come to our show and talk about other shows? I mean, what's that? Is that the first
Shiloh.
thing you gotta hear?
I don't know what to do.
What do you know what to do?
He doesn't know
heard
what
you
the
were gonna
etiquette
be
is.
there, so
What kind of?
you
Why were
just
you?
showed up.
Why were
ruined my
you-
plans
Why did they want you on the show?
on their show?
Yeah, why?
Well, have you seen me? Like,
Right.
Well, I imagine you were
have you
either
heard my voice?
This
I
was such a
imagine
good
you
answer.
were
I
either-
love this.
a representation of a hallucinogenic
That might
event,
be, yeah.
or you talked about those two things. Those things.
Well, maybe me and the other podcast host, she might have had a similar hallucinogenic event that I can relate to her
I see.
with. But anyway, she has her own podcast. It's about reading. It's like a book club, and Reads and Weeds is what it's called.
Jamie's
And
been
I
on the
have
show.
been on it, and
Yes.
you are invited.
She contacted on Monday though. I can't do Monday, so I have to
Right.
reschedule it
Okay,
because
so let's see.
special
so far,
occasion
let's
this Monday.
continue
But
to talk about
yes,
this
I'm
other
gonna do
radio
it.
show to which I have not been invited yet.
No.
But everyone,
Well,
We need an
she
in-
was
Well,
like,
we have
Shelley
to. We
Smith.
have to make sure it's appropriate before we bring
Right,
you onto
that's right.
anything
I
like that.
think that Michael would be
she'll
a
bring
good
you on.
fit.
You have to
She
have a
will bring
book.
you on.
You
You have to have
read
a book. What's
and you
your
come on and
book?
talk about
Well,
it.
talk about a book. Read a
Shiler
book.
was on, and Shiler's not being scrutinized like the way it seems like
He
I'm
had
going
to read
be.
a book too.
You
We
know,
all
read a
had to read a
book?
book. You have to have a book.
I can write a book.
I got my book from this office.
See,
that
he
I
stole one of
read.
your books. Now you
I
got to
didn't
find
steal it.
another
One
one,
of your
Michael.
law
You
books.
can't use the
Gifted.
same one.
It was Fingerprints of the Gods.
One of your law
Graham
books.
Hancock. Advanced Lost its Civilizations.
But
we
anyways,
could do another one like that, Michael.
Your
That'd be fun.
podcast is cooler because you got
course it is.
cameras and
Yeah.
it's a lot longer.
Tommy, show 'em how
archives.
you
It's
do the
more of
split
a
screen.
news kind of show.
Oh, that's good. Those are good answers.
And
You might be able to stay a little longer now.
Split screens.
I know
Yeah, look at
split
the split
screens.
screen.
Whoa.
Video
Me,
stuff,
and he
yeah.
can do a
Whoa.
grid. It's
Every once in a while,
Yeah.
somebody takes a picture on our show. That's
Yeah.
what
I know.
the
like the ones
there.
with Zeta gets
We
the
got three,
most
look at that. We
likes.
got
Three.
Now it does.
The trifold.
Who named the show tonight? I sent that list of all the good names from years past. And we ended up with this. What's going on?
What is the name of tonight's show? I
It
didn't
was
catch it.
Jamie's idea.
Excellent.
Michael, I protested and I got outvoted.
You're so full of shit.
I sent a list of good names from the past. They're all good names.
We never saw it. Where was it?
Jamie.
I
Tommy.
didn't see it.
There was no list. There was no list.
I sent it and you said, cool. Remember all the lists?
I didn't send it either.
Well, when somebody replies "cool," it doesn't mean
Right. It doesn't mean we're going to follow the instructions. Right.
It means cool.
But they are pretty cool.
So what is the name of the show?
It is.
No, what is it? Because our Spreaker audience can't see the screen.
Oh, they can't
Are
see
you
it.
waiting for Michael to say it?
Yeah. We just need the intro, Michael.
Do the intro.
Confirming. I have no names. No suggestions for names for the show.
The show's already named.
No, I said there's a bunch of previous. Right there.
Oh. Previous show names. That doesn't do us any good.
It
What do you kind of like
it
it's to
shows
be
the
previous show
thoughtfulness
too?
of what went into it instead of names like
Like
the
what?
search for girth.
There we go. All right, there we go.
Show 440. It seems
Uh-huh,
like just
440.
20 shows ago that we did the
It does.
420th.
It does. That show had a lot of girth.
That show had great girth.
I think it's got Jeff Irwin on there at the bottom, isn't it? Or no?
You're going to name the show Jeff Irwin?
No, I'm saying it's like legislative marijuana with Jeff Irwin or something
okay.
like that. That was the name of the show. Like those are good.
Well, we can't do that tonight. Jeff's not here.
No, right, exactly.
So
it
it's
wouldn't
gotta
make any
be-
sense.
Search
It's
for
gotta be
Girth.
the search for
I like
Girth.
this one. Dismantling drug task forces.
Oh, dismantling.
You could do something about the election day yesterday.
Oh,
We did.
We did.
We did.
talked.
We spent the whole.
Yeah.
You were not listening while you were out in the parking
that's
lot.
a great
Wow.
idea, Colin. Once
I'm
again,
sorry. I didn't know when it said it was going to start late. I wasn't sure how
What
late.
book did you read, by the way?
I don't know. I didn't read the book, honestly. I was just recording.
He just carried it
I
with
was
him.
just recording the podcast.
So you didn't participate with the
I did
book.
listen, though.
Oh.
And it
To
sounded
us?
interesting.
Now, there was a listener when I was on there too, and she did participate because she thought some things were interesting that she was hearing and asked some questions about it and stuff. So it's valid to not have read the book and still kind of participate in the discussion.
Your stalker
Yeah.
doesn't count as a listener, Jamie.
Was there an explanation given by anybody as to why the election results for cannabis issues and
Yes, I
candidates?
just finished up giving an explanation right before you whirled into the room.
And it was a good one.
It was a good one.
Did anyone else counter, or did everybody just agree?
Everybody
Like,
totally
Nobody
agreed.
countered. People just agreed with
Yeah,
what
we-
she said because it made
It
sense.
was right.
there's no-
There's
several
a concerted
reasons.
effort now that there didn't used to be, and as Deborah pointed out, a couple of the previous efforts that were successful were done so by not making a big deal about it at all, just letting them fly and letting people vote about it in the privacy of the voting booth, and
Right.
it worked out. Now people are making a big deal about it. There is organized opposition that started off against the statewide campaign. They're still around.
But isn't it interesting that now, in a way, like corporate marijuana would be supporting this, in a way? You would think?
It's an unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
part of this whole process.
No,
yeah.
that the alignment of those political entities of, the traditional
Maybe they feel
ballot
they.
initiative, roots kind of.
But the money's just not changing hands yet. The
Yeah.
licensing process just started.
I understand.
And once the money starts flowing, I can assure you these towns are going to opt in.
Why is there such a do you think that it's deals with in the past they've gone under the radar and you get a turnout and vote on this topic because the only people that are showing up are the people that know about it versus it being better advertised as the first question.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly. That's exactly, Michael. And
And
you
it's an
also
off-year election.
Yeah, well, but that's not what he's saying though. But what he's saying is what I was saying earlier. But that's exactly what happens is when you start holding town hall meetings and you start doing this and that. And I know that it was Chuck Ream had done a couple up north like that. You bring the crazies out, the opposition, the crazies that normally would not have had a voice. Nobody would have heard them. Now all of a sudden, they're talking about. Crime has increased by 150%, and we need fentanyl.
Or
Crazy
whatever they
stuff.
say, they get inspired in the opposition
Right,
and they just
right.
get people out and vote.
So
It
the
becomes a
strategy we
battle.
took was just to kind of get it onto the ballot, make sure that our people were showing up to vote, and come election time we would win.
Well, then that begs the question of this: does that mean then that the results that we've boasted about are not really true and accurate?
No,
or is there a distinction between the understanding and voting for medical and the understanding voting for legal recreational use but not legal businesses? Is that a distinction of difference
Yes.
that effectuated this also? Like we want it legal, we don't think adults should be locked up, but we just don't want a business
Yeah,
in our
because
town.
it's not a one. There's
Yeah.
not a one answer to this
That's-
question. There's a few bunch of reasons, and that's one of the reasons also. Because you've got a lot of people who thought, well, yeah, I think that marijuana should be legal. I don't think people should go to jail, blah, 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 blah. But I don't necessarily want a store a block from my home, and I don't want my kids to walk by, and I don't want to have to explain what that is, and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's another angle. There's a bunch of different
The
forces.
kids know what it is.
Well, of course, I'm not saying that
No,
I
I'm
feel
just
that way.
saying. I'm telling. I mean, it's
I'm just
it's
saying,
a fact
you
we
know,
need to accept.
And then on a third thing, Michael, is this whole vape thing has really caused a lot of negative
Yeah.
publicity, and they keep the last week, 10 days, they keep emphasizing. Every article I read says this is all cannabis related. It's all, even though I know it's not. That's what it says. So people read this, people hear this. You hear these kind of half truths on the news,
drugs are bad.
right? And people absorb this. So I think there was a lot of different
They
things.
will get you.
Yeah.
This is also a problem that occurs. It's almost like the phenomena that with like the economy in India, for example. The United States developed the middle class because it went through the Industrial Revolution and labor unions formed and workers' rights. There was a beginning and a development in the middle and an end, topping off kind of, and it grew this class of individuals, as opposed to, they say, like in India, They've got these tech support, phone call. They have, they didn't evolve. They just kind of got those jobs. They didn't go through generations of working up to that, where they're, the entire populace of individuals, But in a way, the legalization and the acceptance of regulated text marijuana, I would say, has suffered in the same capacity. We haven't gone through the Industrial Revolution about it. Things have not been set straight by organic competition. There's still so many constraints within the marketplace right now because of the slow to roll licensing and the medical, and even more so by the cities that refuse to opt in. They think that opt out somehow keeps crime out of their neighborhood, when the statistics show that there's less crime and people have a source to go instead of what they're describing as crime or non-regulated marijuana. And I would say this, that I described this scenario that I went to this marijuana law section, and I would say that if no one's talking about social issues, social justice issues. They legalize marijuana, there shouldn't be any. No one's talking about the cases that remain. No one's talking about Schedule 1 still. No one's talking about the CPS issues. I still have all those cases. But amongst this group of 220 lawyers that were there to learn about marijuana law, I felt like there was this prevailing understanding that there are rules and regulations, and they want them so they can advise their clients and other people how to act within the rules. And now that we have the rules and we have the regulations, they're the people that are playing within the rules and regulations. Forget whether the rules and regulations are correct, whether they're accurate, whether they're doing what's supposed to be done. We got rules and regulations. So there's people that are operating within them, and there's people that are operating outside of them. Okay, now you can only understand that and accept that without asking a question or saying, how did we get here? If you if you don't understand the history, But I'm saying there's this invitation now for all persons to come in and participate, whether it be, any, recreational licenses. I'm not talking about lawyers, I'm talking people, right? But regular people, not lawyers, not that group. Okay, that's funny. It was not intended to be. We are different breed. Don't make fun of us. That's a totally racist.
You make it really difficult.
So, but the my point would be there's so many problems. The problems are, come up in such ignorance and lack of understanding in these town hall meetings. They come up without any understanding that they don't want it in their town, but they don't understand that in order for this program to work, it's kind of like a state effort in a way. You know what I mean?
Michael, there were outside agitators at this town hall meeting and organized outside in Allen Park. Obviously, they were scripted. They had talking points. Afterwards, we found out the organization they were with. So there's organized opposition to it.
I get it. I understand, and I'm saying to you that.
And the facts that they were spewing were so inaccurate. They were offensive.
They're
People were
old, man. They're
crazy
shit that
stuff.
was used
But
years
yet
ago.
there were folks in the audience who were asking questions pertinent to what these people had said. So they were listening to it. They were hearing it. Whether they were believing it or not, we weren't sure. Apparently, they soaked some of it in.
This is kind of what I'm saying. Legalization of marijuana. I'd say it like this. This is a classic example. A politician who, by stereotype or by actual intention, wants votes and thinks it's a good idea to raise taxes. Okay? And they're looking for platforms to line themselves with to get votes and raise revenue, bring money to the government, whatever, without pissing people off. And they don't want to say raise taxes. And then they find out that marijuana is popular politically, and that by being in favor, they're going to get popularity and they're going to get votes, and
bonus.
They're going to get tax dollars. Mm-hmm. You're telling me all I got to do is be in favor of something that's popular, and I get tax dollars, and I have to tell anyone that I'm raising taxes? How genius is that? Sign me up. Where do I go? Now, the problem is that they can't argue their way out of a wet paper bag on the issues and social issues regarding marijuana, and because of that, and the easy path by which they've all gotten into. Oh, I voted for it. I'm in favor. Let's regulate, without recognizing all the inherent remaining problems and the inability to turn that this kind of stuff goes on. That there's still debates over a health crisis regarding marijuana compared to anything else, right? I mean,
It's epidemic, by the way.
there's a lawyer on the marijuana law section who tried to, like the last year's seminar, did the same thing. Tried to tell me that Jim Henson died from marijuana. That's what he was proclaiming out there. And I stood up and
We're
said,
talking Muppets?
The Muppets.
"The
sure.
Muppets." I
Yeah.
said,
Fuck that guy.
"Do you think
Right.
that?" I said, "Do you?"
Yeah, fuck him.
Well, let me explain
I'll
to
tell
you.
you
How
what,
this, but
though,
I'm saying
that'd
to
be
you,
a great way to
in
go
front
if
of a
you had to
group of
go.
lawyers who are going to be the, implementers of what this framework looks like and keeping people within the framework, and who's outside of it, helping to define that. In front of them, the proclamation was made that Jim Henson died of marijuana. And I stood up, I couldn't take it. I was like, does his death certificate say death caused by marijuana or cannabis? I said no, but he had, this theory he had pneumonia and whatever. Okay, then later on, and I asked him if he ever heard of, what's his name? Come on, what's his name? Donald
Duck.
Donald Duck from Berkeley, California.
That's what I was gonna say.
Taskin. Donald Taskin. Federally funded doctor, physician. His entire life study was to try to make the case that marijuana smoking
Right, the 30-year study that he couldn't
was
do it.
associated with and caused some kind of lung disease. So I asked the guy, so he's saying that, I said, he's saying that marijuana causes lung cancer. I go, what are you talking about? What study? Donald Taskin, federally funded, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, I had a patient that I did an autopsy on. My patient. So he's like, beat me with somebody told me. I know that things that have not been reported that you don't know because of my personal experience.
He had a patient?
He
and
had a
lawyer?
patient. One
No, he's a
patient.
doctor.
He's
He
a
was a
doctor.
doctor,
So he had a patient who died from lung cancer.
Well, he died, and then he did an autopsy.
Right.
So as he's telling me this, he says, and I had a chance to look at the lung tissue, and it was severely damaged. And he's a marijuana smoker. And I said, was he also a cigarette smoker? He said, yeah. I go, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he goes, and then I think the comment was, then they went on to talk about how the number one cause of infant mortality is early births, right? And underweight. Early births, premature.
Low birth weight.
Low birth weight. And that this is caused by marijuana. Now, I said, where do you get those stats from? He said, well, all people that smoke marijuana smoke cigarettes. And it's well known that cigarette smoking during pregnancy causes low birth rate and blah,
There's
blah, blah.
not a single person in this room that smokes cigarettes, are there? Tommy, do you still smoke cigarettes?
Tommy.
Couple of days.
Wow.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Wow.
And you know what? The baby he had that he delivered.
Wait, it was 12 pounds, right?
You delivered a baby.
Yeah, right in Michael's office.
Came right out of his ear. It was wild. I don't know. But it was not, so like there's, and I'm saying, so there's,
And we get
this
man
guy's got a
boobs,
magazine
too.
that he posted.
Oh, yeah, man boobs. Don't forget about
Oh,
boobs.
the man was my favorite.
Yeah,
It's,
moves.
have you heard that before?
I have.
I thought I was the only one that had
No,
heard that.
I heard it when I was a little kid.
There's a study done by on
And
four.
you said, I don't care. Past the.
I also was told about the monkey thing.
was a man boob study,
They
that's
killed a
true.
monkey.
Yeah, they suffocated him and then
It
said
was
the
like
pot-
all
that
over.
pot
I
did
remember
it.
seeing
They
like the
killed a
Time
monkey?
magazine.
They
What?
cut
I
off
didn't hear about
oxygen to it and then said the pot did
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's
said,
what happened.
God.
wow.
Yeah,
Where,
so, yeah.
Who did it?
They
Where?
had like
I
a
don't
mask
know.
on, so all he inhaled was just cannabis.
Was it Richard Nixon?
And there was no oxygen.
There
No
was
oxygen. They
no,
killed the
it
monkey.
What the hell? Where?
The
It was
man,
like in 90s.
Why aren't we
in the
marching
90s.
about this? This
Like-
is terrible.
the man boob study, just to be clear, was 4 military personnel that had lived near like a nuclear reactor for like 4 years, happened to be all in a certain unit and had been developing man boobs, and were connected by their smoking of marijuana at some point.
And they all recently had implants.
Therefore,
Everyone has man boobs who smokes marijuana.
I will tell you this though. They
I wanna
teach
say that
they
every
teach
man
that
in this
medical
room
school.
has man
They
boobs.
teach that in medical school. I'm telling you,
They
they
still teach that?
yeah, I think they do.
Wow.
I kind of wear like a sports, or a little support.
Like a B cup.
Yeah.
It's a little
I
support.
think
Small B.
your pecs is what you're referring to were well documented in the dynamic duo photo that we can all imagine right now as being extremely.
Jamie's curvaceous in other areas.
The package.
Maybe that's what it was.
Ben was liberal with the package. Okay.
Maybe
was
people
really-
get
it
the
was
idea
awesome.
of man boobs from that photo because it could have been, you were in like a tighty. What do you call that thing? Tights. It was like man tights.
Tights. Leotard.
So his leotard
Uh-huh.
made it look like he was
And a cape.
big in the pectoral area, but in fact they may have just really
But
been
that thing was that
man boobs.
the suit thing is like a thong, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
But he had
Floss.
under tights, so it wasn't completely, like
Yeah, but
chaps.
it's-
It wasn't
it's
like
still
chaps.
And on the
Split the
top of the
cheeks
top of the
nicely.
tights had like a girdle.
Yeah.
But
A lot of thought went into it. Someone that really loves you must have drawn that.
yeah. He didn't skip.
All right, so should we go to the topics? I always said I'm going to stop in for a couple of seconds here because this show seems like it's going great without me. I didn't need to be. I didn't want to ruin it.
It was
take
running
away.
smooth, but it's not the same.
What about the
I'll
other
tell you.
election? I'm sorry. If I got invited on your show, I probably would try to
We
disrupt it.
invite you
But-
all the time.
Come
You
on
never
over.
show up. Yeah, anytime. You never show up.
4 to 6.
Oh, you're on
always.
that show too? So what, you like touring? You guys are just like touring radio shows that
We
you guys do?
We do.
I mean, we do, but
How many
It's our
other
North-
radio shows do you
it's
want
our
to talk
North
about?
American tour.
Just
We'll
kidding.
be
I
just.
was just on a show with Rick that Rick is filling in as co-host on Mondays. I wish I could think of what it was called at the moment, but Michigan Tech Radio. I believe
yeah, I
it's
think
called.
that's right.
That's nice. How'd that go today?
That was Monday, and it was very cool. Brian Baser was going to be on it next Monday.
Cool.
Maybe you'll get to be on
Probably
it one
not.
of these Mondays.
I'm not going to hold my breath on any of this. I just figure we can talk about all the other shows on our show.
Oh, okay.
Medical Monday.
Medical Mondays.
We did Medical Monday, and of course, our own show, Jazz Cabbage Cafe,
Yeah.
which is really.
I know equal billing in discussion of Planet Green Trees takes place in all the places
we
you
talk
go.
about Planet Green Trees every
all
show.
the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
What are some of the titles that Planet Green Trees has been called in the past? Did you bring that up? Just
The girth of all law firms.
kidding. No.
The
It has-
girthiest law
I always
firm.
mention that it has more than 420 shows, and I got to be at the 420th.
Yeah,
That's true.
So
That's true.
um,
You had quite an impact on that evening.
We
for us.
reference
I did.
your
What did
cases a
Oh
lot.
yeah, I did have an impact.
So
We got 3 minutes.
for what?
So
To what?
So
Yeah.
until we
More
got to take a
joints?
break, dude.
That count as a segment?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
9:07.
It's been a
Let's
good-
finish off with the
been a
election
pretty good
results for segment number 2. What else do we know about them? So
Well-
who lost? So was it one of
Chad
them
Morrow
to opt
lost.
out? Was it one of them to opt out? Not to opt in.
Yeah, so that one was
Like
the one that
it
passed.
got enough votes to opt out.
Northfield Township was like was like an opt out,
And it went down.
And it went down.
Right.
It lost.
Yeah,
Right, so
I believe
this-
there was another.
and the council's
going
gonna
to
put it on now, right?
Yeah, and
The
the council's
council's-
poised now to opt in because
They're gonna opt in.
it was defeated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they said.
Jamie
if it is-
Cooper lost, but she might slide in
Yeah.
on the council anyway because she
Yeah.
was next in line on the vote, and the mayor's leaving, pro tem's filling in, so a seat's available.
So,
So
yeah.
she might actually get in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And
Yeah.
Jerome Bussell, you know him. He's like a cannabis activist from Morenci. He got a city council seat
Nice.
in Morenci.
What about, so Chad Morrow did not win?
No,
He did not
Was
win.
he close?
No,
No.
no.
Who else
Um,
ran? Someone else. So Jamie Cooper, and then there was her.
Bernie.
And
Bernie
also
didn't win.
Brandon
Didn't get it.
McQueen wasn't able to win
Hmm.
in Mount Pleasant. And I think they
Yeah,
shot
they
down
shot down the pro measure.
The
yeah.
pro measure there. There's a couple other. Walled Lake got defeated.
They already had opt-in, but a limited number of places, and this would expanded that.
Yeah, it
that
was
got
like-
shot down.
Yeah.
And Wild Lake and Keego Harbor both
Keego
got shut
Harbor.
down.
I was gonna mention that.
Hugh
one,
Harvard's
too.
out. Was that Troce's or was that somebody else's?
That's
It was-
what we're
I
thinking it had to,
think
because
you-
somebody
No, I
said
think it was
something.
somebody else's.
Against it at
Well,
the
that-
end, but it said I think Nick was the treasurer of both the Walled Lake and the Keego Harbor.
I interacted
some
with
reason.
him about that. I think
I'm
he
not
said he had
mistaken.
originally got them onto the ballot and then
And they
there's
didn't
no
just
more
lose by a
involved.
little bit. They
Yeah.
really lost
Yeah.
by a lot, like 60-40 margins just about everywhere. It was pretty clear what the
was
voters
Hudson.
said.
Oh, but Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park
did pass.
was-
Hudson
yeah.
did not pass.
Yeah.
Hudson up in Lenawee.
Hudson City
Like-
or something.
Yeah, like lower Michigan.
Adrian.
Yeah, that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did not pass.
But Lincoln Park passed.
Yeah, Lincoln Park get passed.
And it was like a state, like the ballot initiative last year. It was like 56-40 or 57-43 or something like that.
Is that what it passed by?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, Lincoln Park?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things similar to Allen Park, but Allen Park did not
Yeah.
go for it. Did not hear much coming out of Lincoln Park either. But Allen Park's talked about it for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Sometimes
Allen-
when you
Allen
keep
Park-
shaking it and shaking and shaking it, you bring out things you don't want to bring out.
The former mayor of Lincoln Park was the one who brought this ballot petition forward. He contacted me a while ago about it, and I think that he had a lot of folks behind it, and it was pretty easily they collected the signatures for it. So it was just no candidates were behind it. It was the former mayor. So
Either I think it was Allen Park, but they had a terrible event happen to them when they were trying to take advantage of the movie industry
movie
credits.
industry.
It is
Yeah,
Allen Park.
it is. That's
yeah.
Allen Park.
And it decimated the city
Yeah.
financially. It really did.
They gave permission to some group to do that and give a bunch of property expecting to get tax credits, and they just
They did.
project
then,
never got off the ground. And
yeah, it didn't get off the ground. Then something happened. Rick
bad.
Snyder came in
Yeah.
and took it out. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some positives coming from that whole program.
No, from that program, there was a lot of positives coming, but not in Allen Park. That's something happened there.
The Lions practice there. Right?
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I'm
Yep.
not. I'm not saying anything against Allen Park. I'm just saying what Michael's discussing was a bad
they
situation.
got taken. Usually, you don't
Yeah.
see that happening where somebody's,
Mhm.
to a city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where they. Maybe it's not so much a shocker, I would say. All right, so do we go long enough regarding the break? Is it time to should I play some?
It's time for a break.
Wait, no, it's a good song. I play my. There are a couple of jams. Remember?
We were playing good music.
Oh, that's good.
Jim was playing good music.
My main man Tony Green, and that's right, tell him Big Snoop Dogg sent you. We looking for all that new talent in the Detroit area. Let's go, D.
Yeah, you know what time it is. All the way from the legendary Russell Industrial Center in the heart of Detroit City comes Hyped Up Live Sessions with your host, your boy T-Money Green. We've created a show to bring the very best talent from Detroit, from around the world, to you sitting on your couch. It's like a couch concert, baby, as you never experienced before. You could be the next artist to perform on a Hyped Up Live stage. I know Detroit, I know the music in Detroit, and I gotta do it. You know me, or if you don't know, check it out. From the Dramatics to George Clinton to Snoop Dogg. If I said I'm bringing you the very best, I'm bringing you the very best in entertainment. Hyped Up Live Sessions, the way we wish you would experience Detroit music. Couch concerts coming up.
Check this out, this your boy Warren G, and we're going hard right now with the Hyped Up Live session with my homeboy T. Green, you better ask somebody. You don't know? Shut.
I was upper middle class, I had a yard of carpet grass. Worked backhoe 9 to 5 and paid my union dues. But the chef came one day and he took it all away. Left me without anything to lose. They forfeited my car, they found some sugar in a jar. Told me it was probably suspicion of a crime. The other day I saw it being driven by the law, and them boys in back was gonna do some time. Well, forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the deep East Texas task for the blues. took my minibar and then they seized my VCR. They could be misused to watch a nasty video. They took away my kitchen all the time. My wife was bitching that it wasn't nothing but oregano. They said my herbal tea might cause a sinful ecstasy. Told me it could only lead to doing something hard. They took my ass to jail. They took my wife, paid my bail. Took my double wide down to the county yard. Forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play without a cotton picking thing loose. I got the Oakland County task force blues. Without a cotton picking thing loose. I got them Oakland County task force blues.
It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Cheese. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally and internationally, and even in Spaceland. Please welcome Tim Beck.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. Really glad to be on the show.
Thanks for staying with us. Planet Green Cheese, episode number 395. Is that right?
Correct.
Calling it Working Man. For those that are on the end, know what that means. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode. Please welcome Steve Miller.
Steve Miller. Thank you for the kind words, Mike.
And we're here now still with Q, who, as I was trying to lay some kind of foundation before all the objections came, as it happens sometimes. I've got an agenda here. I see. I usually resist agendas, and I will tell you that I'm not really going to follow this. I mean,
This is a celebratory of the 420th show. Anything goes.
Please welcome my dear friend, looking like very Dylan-esque tonight, maybe more Laszlo Dylan-esque, if there's a thing. Jeff Frazier.
President's ever had more people at their arraignment than I am. That's really funny.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
We got only Jamie Lowell.
Hey, don't leave the studio.
Don't leave the studio, Jamie Lowell.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. Set him free, let him be, breathing air like you and me. What's the judge to do? What else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him free. This whole place went nuts. If he was a soldier man, shooting gooks in Vietnam. If he was CIA, selling dope and making hay, he'd be free, breathing air like you and me. What's the judge do? What else could Judge Columba do? Well, we got to set him free. And sure enough, that was Saturday, and then next Monday, John Sinclair walked out of jail. And the Supreme Court issued an opinion in People versus John Sinclair that said, it's cruel, it's unusual, it's arbitrary, it's irrational, it's capricious, and it cannot be the law in the state of Michigan that we treat marijuana the same way we treat opioids. And they set him free. Hi, I'm Jeff Frazier. I'm one of the attorneys at Komorn Law in Michigan. And on behalf of poet John Sinclair and some doctors, some pharmacists, some organizations, we're suing the Michigan Board of Pharmacy to finally, once and for all, to remove marijuana from the Michigan list of controlled substances. John Sinclair was and is a poet provocateur, an adamant opponent and protester against America's involvement in the Vietnam War and all the bombings. He was organized together with Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin and the Black Panthers guys. And, he organized against the war. And in his words, we were protesting the war and we were advocating for the legalization of marijuana, all the while smoking vast quantities of it. We ought to do something about finally getting this plant off of the controlled substances list. We have law where the state of Michigan is licensing the medical use of marijuana. At the same time, it says under the Board of Pharmacy says under the Controlled Substances Act that it is still a controlled substance. And not only is it still a controlled substance, it's still a Schedule I controlled substance. And being Schedule I controlled substance means that it is contraband per se, and that its mere presence is evidence of a crime, and it justifies the raids. Michigan State Police spend 40% of their resources going after marijuana that is allowed for medical use, is licensed by the state, is now been voted into law by the people of this state to be legal for adult use. And yet it's still 40% of the police budget, still 40% of the prosecutor's daily load, it's still 40% of the Michigan State Police Crime Lab daily load. And it's still Schedule I, which justifies the stops, the searches, the seizures, and more importantly, the raids. And that means men with AR-15s and ski masks going in where men, women, and children and dogs and grandparents, are quietly sitting there watching TV. And because the neighbor complained of the smell of marijuana coming from a basement window, these patients or caregivers and now any citizen in the state is allowed to grow. The continued placement of marijuana on the Michigan State list of controlled substances is just simply absurd. Hopefully we'll get our hearing. If not, then we'll fight it out in the Court of Appeals and ultimately back to the Supreme Court that originally spoke in the case of John Sinclair back in 1971. It's time for, this absurdity that has forever lived at the heart of the drug war to be done with. And the way to do that is to take marijuana off the controlled substances list altogether. It's no longer to be policed. It's to be regulated. An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. Planet Green Trees.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Fantastic. Glad things are going good. So, how's the show rating so far for all you radio pet testers?
It looked like we had some people on the Facebook, and I think they give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay, good.
Of course they do.
So, we got
Why
some other
wouldn't they?
topics of conversation.
Exactly.
Shall we?
Just silly.
20 reasons Michigan recreational marijuana businesses could be denied a license. Okay, Jamie, go.
He has to have all 20?
Let's start with 20, then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
There was, well, I'm not going to go over the 20, but there was an article out recently that had that
Fair.
same headline.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
And went over some of that stuff. So
You've gone over it?
I read through it. I haven't.
So, if
gone
any of the
over it.
shows you've been on been through it, so this would be a new topic and new territory.
It'd be new for me to go in depth with, but if you don't like follow the shit on the application, you're not going to. So, if you don't do it correctly, more than 20 ways incorrectly, then you will not get accepted.
So, for example, false information provided in the application would be a problem, right?
I believe it would.
All right, how about...
It's already been a problem for people.
Do we have news back on any recreational licenses yet?
No, I'm talking about in
Yes,
medical.
yes, there are. The one of them got like approved within 90 minutes or something like that.
Nice, good. There was a previous MMFLA license person, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. 2, the license and renewal fees are not paid within 10 days of approval. One of the things that's interesting about the rules, and I've heard King Andrew speak of this at times, that there's a 90-day window from the day the application starts tolling then. This could be good and bad. Many times the application process is delayed based on the agency's problem, but the people responsible for everything, the person responsible for everything, Jamie Lowell today we'll say wise enough, he may come back to haunt him, but he'll figure out later how to defend that. That 90 days is the limit by which they had to get the applications back, meaning get all your stuff in, you should have an answer within 90 days. What's the drawback? Drawback is they send you a deficiency that takes you a month to get your stuff back on, and they're like, well, we didn't get it in enough time, we're at the 90th day, and we're going to deny you, and you got to start over again. You see, that kind of stuff could happen. You know what I mean? They're aware of that, I think.
The state tends to view these things in ways that are of the most convenience to them. So
Why does it need to take 90 days to approve?
it doesn't. They demonstrated that, but you could have some stuff that's incomplete. They could need more stuff. There could be an error here or there. 90 days runs out. Now,
Still 90 days. It seems like quite a long time for them to verify everything they need to verify. Everything's
we're
computerized.
hoping that it would
It's not
cover enough time, right? That was the idea, but it might not.
If someone sees on the application that certain things are needed, and they send in and they don't have something, it's incomplete. Number one, it's not false. It's not paying, but the application and the information's incomplete. Let's say so they send you a deficiency, and by the time they get it and get back to you and send these things back,
So my advice would be get all your ducks in a row. Hire somebody who's competent, knows what's up, and that's the advice.
So when you're getting ready to do it, be aware of this time beginning to toll, and that it may take a month for them to get through it. And if they send it back to you and it takes you another month, you got 1 month to get it back and for them to
because
prove
it's clear what you need to submit.
We'll know a little bit. There's like 50 or so that have been submitted, and some of them have already been turned around. So we'll get an idea.
Well, I think it's fair to say
some people have been able to.
It's fair to say that if you have an MMFLA license, they serve food at those other radio shows. By the way, never.
Well,
Spread's
very
not
similar,
as good.
Similar spread.
Similar spread.
We go out to
eat afterwards.
Afterward, it's Taco Tuesday.
We have fried pickles, Michael.
Okay. Fried mushrooms.
Not anymore, apparently.
I know. Apparently, we didn't have any.
Yeah, there was fried cheese curds, and
The
Colin
question was
drew
not-
the line. He
the
said,
question
"Fuck
was
you."
not-
we refused those.
How
Fuck
do
you
you guys?
and your cheese curds.
He did. He did.
I did.
He said.
And then I threw the menu at her.
Yep.
The question was not how do you enjoy each other's company at some dive near the radio broadcast.
I was
the question
just there.
was, is the spread? What's that?
I was just at this fine place of business.
Yeah, it's a great place.
I had to get the key to the radio station.
Okay.
You were just there.
Are you eating the
just
dog
there.
too, or is the dog
I'm-
off the plate? The
No,
dog's off
I'm
the plate.
eating the dog too.
I'm saying
yes.
it's very close. It's all going on at the same time. I just want to make sure.
Little dog, little PETA.
But the spread is
Zeta PETA.
unique to the show. Jim's still loyal exclusive to PGT, I think, so far.
What?
Jim is loyal to
All right, good.
BGT.
You want him on the show? You got to come through me. I'm going to agent for
If we
Jim,
want
okay?
Jim, we could have Jim. Okay.
Just appease me a little bit and pretend like I have some...
I just don't think he can get off work in time. you
No,
know,
Yeah,
his
no.
kids, he's
You
got to
don't
pick
know.
them up.
If
and
that's what you need
I'll
to
tell you what
believe,
we do is
Charlotte.
all the way
complimentary.
across
Charlotte, go
town
right ahead.
in
It's fine.
Macomb.
What we do is complimentary to this show, and we think the show is the best. There's no question about it. I
Yeah.
love this show, and this show's very
This
important.
show is
should.
really the best.
You
show.
should.
Here's something.
That's why we're here.
Delinquency, reason number 5, that the applicant is delinquent with payment on local, state, or federal taxes.
Whoops.
While there is not a financial requirement or even that you have a legitimate history of employment, apparently now a delinquent.
You gotta be straight with your taxes.
Yep.
That's
Make
all
sure
they
you pay
care
your
about.
taxes.
You got to make.
I mean,
sure
it has to be
you gotta
taken
pay the
care
man.
of. I mean, it
Yeah,
can be
make them not
Payment plan
delinquent
or
anymore.
something.
right. So when they're not delinquent anymore, they like that better
Right.
for the
And that's
purposes
normal
of the
for
application.
I think for
That
any
was
type of
some of the
license-
stuff went over. I was recently a witness for somebody's appeal, and that person had taken care of the tax issues, and, that
And it
part
was
of the
no
discussion.
longer delinquent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Next.
Fair to update, the Marijuana Regulatory Agency of changes to the business, such as contact information, change ownership, relocation, name change, criminal conviction, or judgments. I should say that there is a requirement in these for business plans and employee predicted, revenue that's planned in employees and all kinds of information. So if you don't have that in the initial application, you will be denied. Okay. So I forgot what number I'm, but number 7, the applicant denies or is unable to provide access to their business for pre-license inspection. So if you have a facility that you're trying to have license for some recreational activity and you're unable to produce the accessibility to the location, that would be a basis to deny. The applicant's business
Nothing
location
to-
fails to pass the site inspection conducted by the Marijuana Regulatory Agency of Fire Services as required within 60 days of submitting a completed application. You have 90 days to get your answer back, and 60 days after you file it to make sure that your facility is in check.
Another reason to kind of
Get it all in order beforehand.
down beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, aren't there people
So
who
all
can
these things-
facilitate this?
Nothing unreasonable
Lawyers.
about any of this
Yeah.
stuff. You just have to make sure you do all this shit properly.
The applicant, well, you got to have the time clock. You got like a shot clock
Well,
going.
exactly. That's why you kind of.
Well, no, you don't submit until
You
you've
don't
got
pass
everything.
the ball into bounds until you got your
you
players
got
on the
everything's
field.
ready. Exactly.
All right. The applicant.
There's a nut analogy in there somewhere too. I'm sure if Ray was here,
I'm
he
sure
could
there's
provide it
another
to us.
analogy.
The applicant is or was operating an unlicensed marijuana business. They're using that as a preclusion now?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's like, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
They always threaten that, though.
Convicted?
They always threaten that.
They can't.
So there it is.
The applicant or another owner has a pattern of convictions involving dishonesty, theft, or fraud that indicate that proposed marijuana establishment is unlikely to be operated with honesty and integrity. Now, there's no conviction that's a preclusion per se. They do have the catch-all moral turpitude clause, which, for all purposes, if they were going to make a case against an individual for their past record, it wouldn't be on marijuana crimes so much as it would be theft and dishonesty crimes. You know what I'm saying? Like they use those convictions for other things that taint people's reputation in courts. So I could see where they would say, if you can
Moral character issue. Right?
well, if someone has been convicted of an assault case and they're testifying versus someone who's been convicted recently of a theft or dishonesty within 10 years, you can ask them about the theft or dishonesty because it is about truth and veracity. The assault doesn't necessarily deal with that, but that would be relevant to the jury.
Violent.
What?
Well, violent felony.
I'm saying that the relevancy of the witness who's testifying's conviction for assault is irrelevant when he's testifying unless it's tied to the matter but he's testifying to. But
Okay,
you can
fine.
ask a person who's testifying if they've been convicted of any theft or truth or dishonesty crimes within 5 years. If the answer is yes, they have to explain it because truth and veracity crimes shine a negative light potentially
credibility.
on the witness's credibility or understanding of truth and veracity. All right, that was a long way to go to make that point, but I'm a lawyer, and about 9 times today I asked for forgiveness for my analysis about things because I can't help to think like a lawyer.
Go off.
But people will thank me later. So a pattern of dishonesty. Now, a prior conviction that involves the sale of drugs to a minor is a absolute prohibition from getting
That one will get you.
Yeah.
It's
Just
gotten
don't do that.
somebody.
Just don't do that.
We know.
That one and cartels are frowned upon.
Right.
They may not have been given notice that that's the one crime that will preclude them.
Well, why would you do that anyway?
I've never represented, and not that I wouldn't. And I will tell you this: there's been a Of the calls that if I was looking for patterns of what kind of calls come in and people need services related to their freedom and or their abuse within the broken criminal justice system, and sometimes it relates to marijuana or cannabis, it is now where kids are getting their hands on parents' rec stuff and taking it to school or what have you, and there's always the overarching theme that parent could get charged with some kind of delivery to their kid. Just so you know, you see what I'm saying? You heard me on that? And it's weird. I got two different calls, kind of describe the same pattern of behavior. One of them issued a minor in possession, civil infraction. You know, that's another thing. Like minor possession used to be a misdemeanor, then it was like a civil infraction. Now it's, but they didn't charge any marijuana. In the other county, they were like, CPS investigating and same facts. Anyway,
Same age kid?
Very similar circumstances. One of the county prosecutors was like, or the police were like, well, it's a civil infraction. The other one's like, we're going to try to
So who are they charging, the kid or the parent? Or both? Or what's going on?
It's complicated because the child at issue is in a from a like a divorce decree, and visitation governs that relationship. So they're always going to court fighting over things. So there's already like an inherent in.
Right. So
it's
now the
all
other
biased.
spouse
It's
is
all
like,
biased.
aha!
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So that's it. So the allegations came out of.
Wow.
But. I'll tell you what remains. I don't know what that is. I'll tell you what remains is that they still are not capable of establishing whether or not there's, the.
Touch it.
Stop. What is that? It's weird.
It's sticky.
It's sticky. Touch it, Michael.
Come on.
He won't.
You know you want to.
He won't even acknowledge it, Jamie.
Oh my God.
And that came from the Young Dems.
Thank
Last
you,
week
Young
at the
Dems.
fundraiser.
You're welcome. I didn't go to
I
that
forgot.
Halloween
Aren't you
party,
almost
but-
aged out of Young Dems? How far
No,
does
I
Young
got-
Dems stretch?
It goes to 35 now.
Oh, you got a long.
so I
I
got a
thought it
couple
was. It
years.
used to be
remember when
like
I was a young
28,
man at
didn't it?
35.
I think it used to be 28.
I'm not. No, I'm not 30 yet.
Oh, he's not even 30. He's a
He's not done
child.
yet.
21 yet.
I'm not even 19 yet.
He's just a tenderoni.
He's just a little guy.
Yeah.
Just
That's why we
graduated
call him
elementary
Young
school.
Colin.
That's right.
What is the recommended legal age for psychedelics?
I mean,
For what?
I mean, would you recommend, because you're so young,
well,
that you
actually,
yourself shouldn't
so
take them?
this is an interesting thing. So in our decriminalized nature resolution, we were talking about
Who's we?
the
Your society?
steering committee.
Of the Society
Settle,
for
It's
Julie
this is
Barron.
like, well, we'd invite you, Michael, but
thought I'm
I
a
didn't
lawyer.
think you wouldn't come. We need.
What do you
to-
mean? I've shown nothing but interest, and
I don't.
I call you Charlotte when you come here.
Well,
which
can
is
you look
showing of a
over
pe-
this resolution for me then?
right now?
Not right now, but we were
Right after
talking
the
about
show.
the age thing, like you were talking about, and we left it out because we didn't want like people to be punished, like excluded, who are younger than 18 or 21, or how it would work out. It's just is decriminalize, is making it the lowest law enforcement priority in the city of Ann Arbor, and so we had that discussion a couple weeks ago. Actually,
Some cultures in South America give their
So,
babies a teaspoon
yeah.
of ayahuasca.
So I was gonna say, like, there's, definitely coming of age practices, like, all across the globe, and
I'd be more than happy to
and-
help out. Let me just make a suggestion. If you're going to like ask someone to help out, don't start with like, "Well, I didn't think you were going to come anyways."
Well,
Maybe we're going to help
I
out.
mean,
That's not a good.
we
and I've
asked
mentioned-
you,
But if you
like,
want to
probably,
review
like,
some of my stuff, I'm
5
just working on it. I will let you.
I thought it was quite ingenious
This
the way
was-
he segued into
this was
that.
kind of my plan
You know?
coming here
That's what I'm.
tonight, so,
I'm
like-
starting to realize that. That's what I say. He smoothly segued into that, and
Well,
you fell right for it, Michael.
Yeah, I was
You
like,
did.
I like set a trap, and I was like, oh,
You
there
invited
you go.
it.
I'm not. No.
Colin's a master manipulator.
You let him
Don't
in.
mess
We
with
had him
him.
locked out in the
Jeez.
parking lot. You went and let him in.
Yeah.
I already only showed up because he heard I
And
wasn't
you were
here.
like, eat the
He
meat.
thought I could take over the radio show.
Eat the meat.
He thought he just had free reign on the the microphone to be able to tell what
That's what I was really trying to
that
do.
Was the real
we can talk about it if you want to. I can talk about the resolution right
sure,
now.
I'm sure you can. Let's talk about it in this context, though, because it's an interesting dynamic. The legalization piece, likewise, like the dilemma you have, doesn't protect these individuals. It's legal for people over the age of 21. What about those other people? Do you think that
civil infraction?
Do you think the voters suspected that by legalizing or intended that by legalizing for people over the age of 21, they were arguably specifically precluding people under the age of 21?
I mean, they were.
I think they were, yeah.
Aren't consequences outlined for ages 18 to 21 that are less severe than when they're under 18?
And they're very similar to the ones that were contained in Senator Rick Jones' bill that ended up essentially decriminalizing MIP.
Right. Yep.
And I think it's perfectly appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that the argument is always made that 18-year-olds, a lot of them are still in high school, which makes it a direct chain into the high school. And so that's where people find a lot of objections to under 21.
Yeah.
So it's just
if
easier.
We're not trying to make it easier for them.
I mean, I'm suggesting it makes it easier to pass a bill or a ballot proposal with an over 21 than an 18 and over.
I got you.
Just because of that.
Yeah.
Is that what the kids think?
The
Colin?
kids don't
Kids
think
want
it.
an easier
The
pipeline
soccer
to
moms
their
think
shit.
it. The soccer moms are like, well, hell, all you need, because you remember when I was 18, the drinking age was 18 when I was in high school. So all you needed was one friend that was 18.
Yeah. And you were
And
in.
you were in.
You were
But
in
then,
like
but
Right.
then the government got wise.
And they raised it to 21.
No, they went
go.
to 19 first for a
19
year.
first for a year. And then
it went to 21.
Yeah. Poor Dave got suckered. I know he's listening. Poor Dave got it, like, his birthday was right on the cusp, so he was like legally drinking until like 9, and then he was cut off until he
my
was
sisters
21.
fit that bill too.
Yeah, but not me. It all.
It was always illegal.
Yeah, it was always legal for me from 18 on up.
Wow.
I'm a couple years.
The
older
legal
than
drinking
him.
age used to be 1.5, 0.15 in Michigan at one point.
That was the
For
limit.
drunk
right?
driving.
You mean the blood?
The bow.
Yeah,
Contest,
for
yeah.
BAC for drunk driving.
Yeah, I used to be able to drink, one of those 8-pack pony packs, and you were cool. You were fine. Remember
yeah,
that?
you were good.
Do you remember those little? They were
What was DUIs like 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Because they weren't like as harsh as they were now.
Well, they used to have. There was multiple state statutes that had been written on top of each other, so you could get operating under the influence of liquor. You can get an operating while impaired. You can get a breath alcohol violation. So you got like 3 first drunk drivings before you've ever been charged with a second. So people get they get a second offense. Well, I got my first second of OWI second. Now I get my first second of UBAC or unlawful blood alcohol. So these, and then in October 2003, they undid all of that and said all that is going to be under one particular thing right now, and any drug or alcohol, whatever you called it, if it was in this, any one of them, it counts as 1. And then if you get another one within 7 years, that's a 2. And if you get 3 within a lifetime, that's a felony. So it was crazy. Like they changed it. And the idea to me at the time, which was shocking, I never thought, because 2 alcohol-related driving convictions then now resulted in automatic loss of your driving record. We have 2 within 7 years. Before, you used to be able to get 1, then another one, then another one, before you got a second, before they counted as a second. And there's ways to... But then they changed it. It was very, a second was a second, and first was a first. And I never thought that people would just give up their license and plead guilty to second offenses, say, yeah, I'll plead guilty and go ahead and take my license, and I'll, have to go through the driver's license appeal division to get my license back, where there's a whole procedure.
It takes years.
Takes
to get your
years.
license. It does. No, I know. I know people have gone through it.
You're presumed an alcoholic, and you got to overcome the presumptions.
Yeah,
Really
you have to. You have to
It's
say
insane.
I am on. You have to go and jump through
Right.
their hoops, even
I
if you're
said-
not. Yeah.
So
And then
that-
they still deny you,
still
just
deny
to fuck with you.
There's a way to win. It's similar to putting on a Section 8 defense in a way. You know what I mean? You
but
gotta
it
know
takes a long time and it's expensive.
It's a year.
I
You got
got
to
one
show
in
a year.
86.
Got to show a year of sobriety before you're eligible. You can send in 6 months
You have
before.
to have letters from
You gotta
like
get a
your
test,
priest
and they
and shit.
do not acknowledge or recognize a person who's a medical marijuana patient. If you've lost your driver's license and you are trying to get the DLAD and they drug test you and you say, oh, that cannabis in my system is because I'm a patient, unlike whatever other protections, that will prevent you from getting your license. They will require you, because they consider it a...
That's the state, right?
Yeah, it's the state of...
it's the
I'm talking
state of
Secretary of State.
Right.
It shouldn't.
Right, no, it shouldn't.
No one
Of course,
should.
we're not surprised when they do things that they shouldn't, or in our minds do, but that is stupid. Because
But the
it's
whole
state
thing is
law
that
that
it's-
allows them to do that, and they are a state agency. They
But
should
it's all
recognize-
about money. Each one of these things, these hoops they make you you jump through, you have to pay for. The counseling,
Right, they'll
the
keep
rehab,
doing it until
the-
somebody challenges
all the
it and
other
wins.
shit.
Right.
hmm It's all about money.
Money, 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 money. Come on, Colin.
Damn, money, money, money.
You just gotta sing the high part right there.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know how the high part goes. What song are we singing?
Oh God!
Oh my God, man!
I'm kind of young.
I remember the day on,
Was this a
on
trap?
Jazz
What are you
Cabbage
trying to
Cafe.
say?
On Jazz Cabbage Cafe a couple weeks ago, we told them about the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
The first time, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. You didn't know
Yeah.
about the Beatles?
He heard of Paul McCartney and Wings, but he wasn't.
What?
quite
I
sure
wasn't
about-
familiar.
Stop.
I
Really?
only heard of John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
You're a liar. He's lying.
It's so
He's
full of
lying
shit.
through his butt.
A butt liar.
He is aware of a
Well,
lot
I
of
saw
he's
all the
pop
movies
culture
when I was a
type
kid.
stuff.
I became
Yeah.
aware of all of it.
He's not insane, okay?
There's a good argument that the only reason you know of psychedelics was because of the White Album or the Beatles, one of the two.
The White Album. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, it's called the Beatles, but it was White. It got popularized by calling it White. But I'm saying to you, they popularized it.
Yeah, they were pretty open and in the public, and a lot of their songs are about it, and we associate them with that
And
culture
it's been given
and that time period.
credit
mushrooms
for
and
some
listen to the Beatles.
tremendous creative music that was
Yeah.
made of the era, right?
That pre-drug war era, yeah.
Well, let's talk about Jefferson Airplane. They were singing about it
Oh, yeah.
before the Beatles. Yeah.
And just
a lot of
Detroit.
good cannabis and altering based music that took
A
place
lot,
before the
yeah.
Beatles. The Beatles popularized quite a bit of it, had a huge reach.
Mhm.
Got some shit moving though. So.
Jim, what do you think?
I love the Beatles.
Jim loves the
more than
Beatles.
the
Come
Smiths?
on.
Not the Smiths. No.
More than the Cure?
He loves
No,
Morrissey.
no.
What's your favorite Beatles song?
I'm not really sure.
Favorite album?
I like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely
I like
Hearts
Rubber Soul.
Club Band. I like that one.
Tyler?
I like my favorite song. I
Album.
think
Son of album.
He may not be able to understand an album. Like he may not be of the era when there was
Okay,
albums
yeah.
and there's like because you know there's
An album
more of
was
a
a
song.
record with
Album.
like 8 songs on each side.
I'm trying to think of the name of it.
What does it look like?
Oh, it's Help.
Mm.
I
That's
like
a
that
song.
one. It's
This
a
is an album.
song.
Yeah, that's
but
a
I think
song.
my favorite song is Revolution.
Which
Okay,
one?
that's
That is
still a
good
song.
One. That's a good one.
The
But
one
it's a
on
good,
the White
it's a good
Album,
one, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And on the White
Well,
Album.
there's Revolution 9, which is kind of that weird, right? And then they've
Where
got
it's
a
like that, like
rocking one, and they got kind of a
rocking one,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I like that one.
That's a good one. Okay.
I also
Number
like
9?
Come Together.
Number 9.
You ever see the Beatles album? The Bee Gees did like a version of it. You know what I'm talking about?
Come Together.
Aerosmith did too.
Yeah, Aerosmith.
Aerosmith did Come Together.
Aerosmith's
but
Come
there's-
Together is good.
But the
That's a good cover.
The Bee Gees were like the hottest band in the world. Is
Yeah, but the
right?
Bee Gees did
And
not
they-
do.
No,
Aerosmith
I
does
know
a great
that,
cover
but they
of that.
did
Jamie.
a redo of
Bee Gees song. Come on.
re-sing of
Michael.
Terrible.
They're terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. Agree, Jim?
Terrible.
See,
Bee Gees?
terrible. Yeah.
I love
Come
the Bee
on.
Gees.
Oh, Jamie, come on.
Who are the Bee Gees?
Really?
See?
Oh, we gotta play him now.
Here we go. No.
You know the Bee Gees.
Everybody talks about them, and I just don't recognize
Saturday
them.
Night Fever.
Well, we're
John
gonna cue it up
Travolta,
after we
it's
end the
disco.
show.
Sounds
Because
like
if I turn it on now,
lame.
Tommy
It's
might
pretty
throw
lame.
something at me, and we don't
It's
want
pretty
that.
lame
I
stuff.
bet Tommy digs it.
I'm sure it was
Tommy
cool
does not dig it. It's
around
really bad.
1979
We'll
or
cue it up.
early
That's
80s
exactly
or
when
something.
it was. Exactly.
You ever heard the song "Shattered" by the Stones?
That's not a disco. Missy was the disco one. Stones
Oh, yeah,
disco.
right.
is
How does
Missy.
it go?
Come on, Michael. Get it right if you're going to use it as your analogy. It's
I
Miss
mean,
You.
it's kind of a shaubi, shattered,
Shadoobie,
shattered.
Shatter. Yeah, but Missy was their disco song. Everybody did a damn disco song.
Yeah.
But
And they were
Big
terrible.
Apple.
They were all terrible. Everyone, each one was worse than the one
Disco
before.
Duck.
Disco Duck. Oh my God.
I had a dread card. Thank you very much.
I did not. I was part of the burn the disco when they were blowing up the records and setting them on fire and We had records. We didn't have-
Dread was Detroit rockers engaged in the abolition of disco.
Yeah, so you were part of the like the
but
Ronnie Dahl
I had to grow into it. I
or the
I
Steve
learned to
Dahl
like it
when he
later on in life.
when he exploded.
Did you really not like disco?
No, back then I made fun of it. And shit
It was
stupidly,
horrible.
kind of.
It was not
Yeah.
rock and roll. We're just,
But
terrible.
I like it a lot now. That's all I'm trying to say. I love the Bee Gees now. Didn't give them so much love way back then.
There's this great 30-30.
I do not like them now, nor did I love
you
them
know what
now.
I say? They did this.
I hold grudges though.
Let's kill disco at like Chicago Stadium or
This
something
is
like
what
that.
I'm talking about. It was Steve Dahl. He was a disc jockey, and he blew up a bunch of records. Yeah, and set the field on fire, and they had to bring the riot squads in.
Because it was the same night as 5-cent beer or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
but it didn't
like
matter.
The worst
That's a good
combination,
reason.
like explosives,
Nickel beers,
anti-disco, which really turned into like.
Oh my God!
a
They used to have
race-
quarter
like-
beer night up in Kalamazoo when I went to college at all the bars. So you had like $2 go in and get wasted. Yeah, it was awesome.
$1 pitcher night at
And
Rich
they-
Cafe in
and
Ann
they
Arbor.
were
Sounds like a search for
They
Girth.
were like Stroh's long necks too. They weren't like little shitty ones. They were nice long. Yes, back in the day.
Sometimes perpetual Girth.
Girth was everywhere when I
Sometimes
was in
temporary
college.
Girth, yeah.
Search for Girth.
The search was on.
Right there.
There it was.
There's some Girth. Sometimes Girth means people want to add on a couple pounds. Though.
Maybe. I don't think that's
Oh,
what
Dave,
we meant.
I can't even read it. Dave
I
just
think we
sent me a
mean
text.
fat dick.
Disco demolition night.
All
Dis-
right.
Okay, so Dave just he said that the event you're referring to was called Disco Demolition Night at Chicago State.
Like people got beat up.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It turned into a riot.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was insane.
You were on that other side, the rioting.
No, this was in
Just
Chicago.
like in
How does it
Detroit.
differ
The
from
particular
burning
disc
books?
jockey was from Detroit,
Huh?
and then he.
How does
he
it differ from
moved to
burning
Chicago,
books?
And he was doing
It
shit like
doesn't.
that here too. He was like a shock
Jamie?
rock.
Basically.
Well,
Yeah.
there's more violence.
Pardon
going
me.
on.
What?
How does the disco album Blow Up differ from burning books?
Because it was fun and burning books is not.
You know what?
More
Books
of
are
a
probably
statement,
warmer.
I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't know if there's 5-cent beers. People probably burn a lot of books too. What if there were like
Silly.
$5
You would
gram
make 5
joints, Jamie?
cents off a beer.
What would people do for $5 gram joints?
There are $5 gram joints at the Botanical Company.
I heard that.
right now.
That's what I heard.
It's the sweet leaf and the little tiny buds of spiked punch.
Delicious.
Which is a really good strain, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
Got a nice little effect after smoking a gram of it.
Michael, were you offended
And during smoking a gram
that
of
people burned disco records?
No, but it was just it was seen in a lot of places as being.
It was a joke.
outrageous.
It was.
Didn't they
It
do
was
it
a joke.
sometimes by
But who
removing
li-
them from
who
like the
liked disco? Where was disco at the time? It was like a, you know, like it turned out being like the.
It's like just like the.
I hate to
young
say this, but
people.
there was like I want to say like a guy like Ted Nugent would be behind something like that. Would it be-
No.
Well, like yeah, that's something like that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you would.
I'm just saying.
Motor City Madman.
Ugh, I don't even talk. Don't even mention
Donna
his name
Sum- how
in the
about
same room
Donna
that I'm
Summer.
sitting in.
You want to put Donna Summer and who else? Come on, give me somebody else. Deanna Warwick, is that disco? Not
I'm
really.
trying to imagine
The
you
disco-
in
the
one of
disco
these
eras for sure.
these disco suits, Michael.
I
like
mean,
doing this John Travolta shit.
I used to do the hustle.
Listen, this is what I'm saying. The connotation of what it was pitting was like white rock and roll against.
This is right at your bar mitzvah
club-
years, wasn't it? Disco. It was.
No.
Well, it's
When
also
was your
kind of
bar-
like.
when were you born?
Club music, like.
It was like it was
67, so it was
like
in-
77.
post-jazz.
Yes, that's exactly. It's
Kind of
79
like-
to 83, somewhere in there.
AC/DC was rock. You know, Back
Yeah.
in Black album was.
Well, I know. So you're rocking. You're
Artist
not doing
era.
disco, but you're right around that time. That's when
The
disco
Knack.
was.
You were in the disco
Good Girls
era.
Don't. I
You
remember that one.
they were discoing at your bar mitzvah.
Yeah,
I
they
know
were.
it. You were wearing that little vest thing.
Brad
Yeah, they
Feiger.
were.
I had a vest
You
for
were
sure.
rocking
Recently has
out.
passed away, or in the
Yeah.
last couple of years,
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, Jeffrey Feiger's brother.
Yes, from the Knack. Yeah,
What's the knack?
the Knack. My Sharona.
Oh,
Come on, dude.
My Sharona?
My Sharona.
I didn't know.
My Sharona.
I know the song,
Yeah,
but
so Jeffrey Feiger's brother's band, The Knack.
John Stamos' older brother.
Right. That's their like big hit.
Jeffrey
My Sharona.
Feiger's brother wrote that song.
Yes.
He's in The Knack.
He's
Brad
in The
Feiger.
Knack. He was. He's
Yeah,
deceased.
he's just recently passed.
Just in the past
Was
few
he a
years.
lawyer or
No,
was
he
he
was a rock singer.
He
He was a rock and
Did you
roll.
get
He
into
was a
Duran?
rock
Just a
star.
singer in a
He
rock
was a
and roll
rock
band.
star. A rock
Did you ever
star.
get into Duran Duran?
Oh,
How about Boy
Dave!
George? How about Boy
I know
George?
Dave's not listening to this.
No, not really. There.
I mean, I was on a car ride for 6 hours, so we had like the 80s on.
my
and there was like
God,
all kinds
not
of like,
Duran
Zen
Duran.
Flesh. Whatever. I'm not.
If you're in
you
a car for 6 hours, there's plenty of Prince
Flock
to
of
listen
Seagulls.
to.
Flock of Seagulls were out there. I ran so far away. There
Speaking
was,
of Boy George, though, me and Jamie have like a funny story. The other day at the
I bet
Cannabis
you do.
Council, this weird guy was like a mime or something, and this girl was like, "You must be Boy George," and I didn't know really who.
Or
it
George
was.
Marks. She said no, George Michaels. Like she like.
You didn't
Yeah.
know George Michael either?
Well, I know who George Michael is, but I don't know who Boy George
Oh
is
no, really?
I said Church of the Poison.
Yeah,
Mind.
the Karma Chameleon too.
Okay.
Church of the Poison Mind though is a rockin'
But
song.
anyways, he just like
Wow.
mimed away. He didn't tell us what his
No,
costume
he was-
was.
Was he
kinda
doing?
like a-
Was he doing a Boy George
He
song?
was like a steampunk mime. I think.
Yeah.
You know, I heard there's a lot of unreported mime violence in France that goes on.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Like they beat
Really?
each other
Yeah,
up, or they
it's a
mime
thing.
kill each other a
Yeah.
lot, and they.
There's mime riots.
Mime on mime.
That's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, mime on mime violence, right? Mob rioting in the streets.
Like miming. Come on, nobody got it.
There's like a different clown culture.
They very quietly get each other.
Yeah.
You guys are like looking
And
at me
more
like, what's he
fucked
talking
up.
about? What's he fucking reporting about here?
I thought you could be like violent to mimes at first.
Well, you can't. How do you get into that box?
He had to learn the lesson
Right.
the hard
Gotta be
way.
able to break
they,
up into
they
that
don't
box.
prefer that. No.
They're safe. They carry their own security.
How do we get to talk about mimes? I forgot. There was a reason.
We went from Boy George.
Well, there was this
Oh, yeah, Boy
mime
George,
guy
right.
that appeared like at the party.
Did you ever
Yeah, it
get
was
scared
Boy
by those
George.
He,
weird
like, I
mime
got it,
guys
gave
that
me
are
the
like
card.
No, it
statues?
was George Michaels, and she mistook George Michaels
for Boy George.
Boy George.
Okay, and Colin only knew who one of them was anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
He definitely didn't know
Very
who Boy George
interesting.
was.
I don't know if he was really.
You've rocked out to Boy George before, though.
Yeah, I know you
no
have.
question about that.
the Crying Game. You ever saw
I'm
that
sure.
movie?
Did
I'm
you write a song
sure
for that?
I'd
What?
recognize
You wrote
the
a song
song.
for that?
He sang that song, the song from the movie The Crying Game. That's Boy George. That was a good movie. You didn't think?
I don't remember all of it, but
I know you
the-
remember part of it. That's a good song. I like
It
that
is
song.
10 o'clock. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's been a complete show.
We're gonna have to wrap
Is
it up.
time?
What about Adam Ant?
Oh, wow. It is 10 o'clock.
Adam, yeah.
80s, yeah. Good stuff.
Well,
Don't
we wrapping
drink,
it
don't
up?
smoke.
Yeah.
What do
Don't
you
drink,
do?
don't smoke.
Yeah, Goody Two
Uh-huh.
Shoes.
Goody two shoes.
Adam Ant
about
was
you,
just at the Royal Oak
Goody,
Theater not
goody,
long ago.
goody,
Didn't you go
goody
see
two
Adam Ant,
shoes.
Colin?
Who?
Oh, never
Adam.
mind. Adam Ant.
What is
At
this,
the Royal Oak
Adam
Theater? Never
Ant?
mind.
What is this?
Yeah,
Adam?
Goody
Who's
Two
this Adam
Shoes.
Ant?
Who is this
Led,
Adam Ant?
Led Zeppelin? What is this?
Who?
I didn't go see Adam
The
Ant.
who? Who?
The who?
The who? What? All right, that's enough.
Yeah, all right.
Colin likes it when we digress into making fun of him. He kind of appreciates that.
I
attention.
It's always-
you can do it. It doesn't hurt me too much.
We run out of topics. We always go there.
What up, though? This Big Snoop Dogg when you're watching Hyped Up Live Sessions with my main man Tony Green. And that's right, tell him Big Snoop Dogg sent you. We looking for all that new talent in the Detroit area. Let's go, D.
Yeah, you know what time it is. All the way from the legendary Russell Industrial Center in the heart of Detroit City comes Hyped Up Live Sessions with your host, your boy T-Money Green. We've created a show to bring the very best talent from Detroit, from around the world, to you sitting on your couch. It's like a couch concert, baby, as you never experienced before. You could be the next artist to perform on a Hyped Up Live stage. I know Detroit, I know the music in Detroit, and I gotta do it. You know me, or if you don't know, check it out. From the Dramatics to George Clinton to Snoop Dogg. If I said I'm bringing you the very best, I'm bringing you the very best in entertainment. Hyped Up Live Sessions, the way we wish you would experience Detroit music. Couch concerts coming up.
Check this out, this your boy Warren G, and we going hard right now with the Hyped Up Live Session with my homeboy T. You better ask somebody. You don't know? Shut.
I was upper middle class, I had a yard of carpet grass. Worked backhoe 9 to 5, paid my union dues. But the chef came one day and he took it all away. Left me without anything to lose. They forfeited my car, they found some sugar in a jar. Told me it was probably suspicion of a crime. The other day I saw it being driven by the law, and them boys in back was gonna do some time. Well, forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play, without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the Deep East Texas Task Force blues. Took my minibar and then they seized my VCR. Well, it could be misused to watch a nasty video. They took away my kitchen all the time. My wife was bitching that it wasn't nothing but oregano. They said my herbal tea might cause a sinful ecstasy. Told me it could only lead to doing something hard. Took my ass to jail, they took my wife, paid my bail, took my double wide down to the county yard. Forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play, without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the Oakland County Task Force blues. Without a cotton picking thing loose, I got them Oakland County Task Force blues. Nice.